Hello, my friends, and welcome to Take a Deep Breath. My name is Mike Maher. I'm a breathwork coach and the host of this podcast. And in this episode, this is in case you missed it. So what we're doing in this episode is I'm just going to bring you a couple of mini clips of conversations that I've had recently with some of the world's greatest experts in the world of wellness, breath, and so much more. And then I invite you, if you find something that you missed or something that you really are intrigued about, then the links are down below to go and watch the full episodes. So let me know how you get on with this. Got some great guests coming as well, so make sure you click the subscribe and follow buttons. And for now, let's get stuck on with this episode. Thank you.
From this episode of Take a Deep Breath, that aired on the 29th of March, Mike interviewed one of his closest friends, Scott Lester. He is a professional hypnotherapist, and he came onto the podcast to talk about a new experimentational form of hypnotherapy called the Superconscious Upgrade. Earlier that year, they performed this on Mike himself. The goal was to help him overcome his hesitancy on lifting heavy weights in the gym in fear of damaging his back. Mike genuinely felt this treatment changed his brain, and in these clips, they go into detail about what happened with his treatment, why and how it affected him, and how Scott became inspired to pursue this line of research. Enjoy these clips, but as always, if you want to see the whole podcast, please click on the link in the description below. Thank you.
Okay, what are all the limiting beliefs that Mike has that is currently stopping him from feeling like he can lift heavy at the gym? I'm actually only reminded now, as you say that, how we've never spoken about this. I'm only now aware of how much you used to shy away from lifting heavy things.
Yeah.
That's only just hit me, actually. We've never really spoken about it in this much detail, so it's interesting that we're doing this. Yeah. But you used to really shy away from lifting heavy things because you thought, to some extent, that your back would go, that you were weak.
My wrist, I'd have straps.
My wrist, yeah.
Not for me today, yeah.
Now, we've never even spoken about that before, but that seems to have changed dramatically.
Yeah.
So what we could have done is we could have said, okay, let's look at all of Mike's limiting beliefs, all the things that held him back. And not only that, we could have also said, and where did they come from? Maybe there was this thing that happened when he was 7 and one of his other brothers pushed him down, and in that moment he thought that maybe we could have gone down there and we could have spent years doing that. What also may have happened is you could be aware that those are all the reasons why you couldn't do those things. The whole point is that, 1, that would have been very lengthy. 2, that could have brought up a lot of painful memories. And 3, even if you knew those are the reasons, it wouldn't necessarily have changed what you were doing and how you were showing up in the gym. And even now, having that ease to say, let's just jump in the gym now and let's lift something heavy because I know I can do it, I know I'm capable. And so what I did is I took you into hypnosis. And while we were in there, I spoke to that superconscious part of you that already knew all the limiting beliefs that you had. It knew them much better than you would consciously ever know. It certainly knew them better than I did. And I asked it to begin correcting. And by correcting, I often joke, I heard it from a very famous hypnotherapist called Milton Erickson. People say, are you going to hypnotize me to do this? And very often I joke and I say, no, my job is to take you out of the trance that you were put in when you were younger. And so you weren't born with the limiting beliefs that you couldn't lift heavy. You weren't born with a limited belief. You weren't born with the thinking that my wrists are weak, or that my back will go, or that I'll just never get that way. That was something that you had to learn at some point in your life. At what point, I don't know. Most likely in childhood, but it could have happened 3 years ago. It doesn't matter. But I asked that intelligence within you, that might be something uber spiritual, it might just be one little part of the brain, no one really knows. But I asked it to go and recode and not correct because it was never broken, but bring back into harmony what was actually true for you. Something that wasn't limiting you. To correct and take you out of the trance of thinking that I could never be that guy. And when that happened, I often joke, it's the most transformational experience anyone can go through, but it's also the most underwhelming. So the idea of you saying, oh yeah, I go to the gym and this is just who I am, my guess is that you don't wake up every day going, the strength within me, this is who I am, and I'll summon that. No, it's just who you are. It's just, no, I go to the gym. oh, it's been a couple of days and my body's missing the gym. It's coming from a very subconscious place. So I asked a very particular part of you to begin correcting and bringing back into harmony other parts of you in the way that was the most appropriate for you. That's a really simplified way of saying it. What ended up happening from a neurological standpoint is we had a wonderful conversation with James Roy, the director of, I think it's called the Brainworks Feedback Institute, in London. And he said something that was really interesting. And just to give people some background, again, this science is so simplified, so don't take my word for it, but just the way that you have an ECG, looking at the electrical rhythms of the heart, there's something called an EEG or a QEEG machine that can look at the electrical rhythms of the brain. Right now, as we're having this conversation, we'd be seeing a lot of what's known as a beta wave. So quite a fast electrical rhythm occurring at different parts of our brain. When we're in a daydream or a trance or we're feeling very present, you'll start to enter what's known as a bit of an alpha state. When you start to go into really deep hypnosis, you'll see lots of what's known as a theta state, and when you're asleep, that's a delta state. The monks, you'll see lots of things like gamma, but the machines that we were using to test your brain couldn't pick up gamma. I don't think that's not the way it was. Those aren't the waves it had been built to look at. What we saw is when you opened your eyes at the end and had to do that experiment, and James was reading the electrical rhythms of your cap, he could see that, and he was really careful with the way that he phrased this, is that it wasn't that there was more alpha waves in your brain. It was that, because he said, people think of alpha as this super wave of, hey, if you want to get into a more creative state, Mike, you need to go into the alpha wave state. That's kind of true, but it's also kind of false. And what he said is you don't want to judge brain waves. So there's not really a good and a bad alpha. But what you can see is that when people are sometimes locked in anxiety or they're locked in the past, you can see quite a lot of alpha because they have to be in some form of mild daydream to be able to access those memories. So you can get someone who's literally, they're not here, they're in their head and they're off in a daydream thinking about the worst case scenarios. So it's not necessarily more alpha that you want to see, it's more alpha resonance. And what he said is that when people are in really present and positive states, you will see more resonance in the waves. What we saw in your brain was that went up by just over 400%. And so what it meant is that afterwards, you were able to see things, you were able to make decisions, you were able to view most aspects of your life closer to what's true. And now, no one really knows what the truth is, but what we could see is that you're able to view things without the baggage of the past. When it's, could I go to the gym today? Most people, when they think about that statement, they're not just thinking if they can go to the gym today, they're running it through the filter of all the times that they struggled at the gym or found those things to be an issue, or they're running it through all the stories of old limiting beliefs. Once those things aren't there as a filter to put an idea through and you just get to see it for what it is, it just becomes more of a, yeah, why wouldn't I just do that? You're able to see it not, I want to be careful with the language here. You don't get to see it more logically, but you get to see it without the baggage of the past. And that can be incredibly powerful because most people, when they're making decisions, it's horrible. And you've always asked me this question, what would you do if you had no fear? And most people are viewing it from a place of fear. And so when we're able to remove that, when we're able to remove the negative memories that have maybe held you back from being able to see that goal closer to what it is, then the goal becomes more attainable because it's not being seen through huge weights. I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just talk, if you can, a little bit about what is the superconscious upgrade and why that might be, I know we touched on a little bit, but why that might be different from, say, traditional hypnosis or hypnotherapies.
So most hypnotherapy, in fact, I'll give you an analogy because this is what first gave me the inspiration for this. Obviously, this isn't a brand new creation. This is like most wonderful things. It's just stand on top of the shoulders of giants, right? So what I'm doing is I've taken the best bits from many different practices and gone, this seems to work without needing to do X, Y, Z. So I first came across the idea of this when I heard a very early lecture from Richard Bandler, who is he's the founder of neurolinguistic programming. And he was talking about a chiropractor, and I've tried to look this person up and I cannot find them because frankly I don't know how to pronounce their surname, so I don't know the actual, I don't know how to spell their surname. It was a chiropractor that he kept referring to as Moshe. And he said that what he would do is most chiropractors, you go on the massage chair and they literally start to put things back into place. It's your spine is out of alignment and we want to put this all back into place. And what this chiropractor would do was he wouldn't manually do that. What he'd do is he'd take someone a little bit more out of alignment and they'd stand up and they would basically walk in circles because one leg was basically shorter than the other. And they would say, bloody hell, doc, what have you done to me? And he would say, it's okay, just keep walking, because what will happen is your body will start to realign itself. So as opposed to going, I'm going to realign you, he'd take them just out of alignment so that the brain and the body finally had feedback to say, oh, we need to correct this in the way that we know how. And slowly this person's spine would go back into alignment and they wouldn't need to go back. And so it was just a thought that I was toying with where I thought, I wonder if the mind is the same. And I asked this to Dr. David Spiegel, he basically founded the psychiatry division at Stanford. And he wasn't sure. He said it's not impossible, more research would have to be done. But it was just that wonderful question, I wonder if the mind is the same. What if actually we're not broken and the mind knows how to be well? And as opposed to going to a therapist or a hypnotherapist to jam that person's belief back into place or to jam that story in the right position, what if the brain, the body just needs permission to move back into the harmony that it always had access to? So, and by the way, I hedged this with saying, I don't know if that's exactly what's happening. I just know the results are better than anything I've ever seen. So I'm still caveating this with saying, I want to do a lot more clinical tests with a lot more people before I say, this is what's happening. But it was just that question that got it started. And so what most hypnotherapy will do is they'll ask you question after question after question to try and ascertain what's the limiting belief that needs to change. What's the story that needs to change? So if we imagine sort of conscious mind and a subconscious mind like a pyramid, you've got the conscious mind, which is a tiny sliver up here, and almost like an iceberg below what's known in hypnotherapy as the critical faculty, like the doorway to your subconscious mind. You've got all the good stuff, all the stuff where if we help change it, you're going to change. And a hypnotherapist will say, right, this person's given me this information here, so let me go into the subconscious mind and I will go change that. So it's almost like psychological chiropractors. They'll go in and they'll say, let's change that belief. Or, so that memory bothers you, let's go back and we'll change that memory. Or, so there's this feeling of being trapped. Right, let's find out. Let's go into the subconscious and find out what that memory was. And so they're going in and basically one at a time, they'll go and change that belief, which can be incredibly powerful. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people won't talk about any of those things at all and they'll just do solution-focused hypnotherapy, which I alluded to earlier, which I originally trained in, but I'm not a huge fan of anymore. I just don't think it's as efficient as the other stuff that I now do. And there'll be psychological chiropractors and they'll say, right, okay, so you want to be a personal trainer, let's try and find the limiting belief that needs to change. Well, the thing that you're telling me up here is the limiting belief. So how do you know that's it? That might be it, but the chances are there's going to be 5 or 6 or maybe 300 other limiting beliefs or 500 other memories that's built on. And they'll go and treat that one at a time. And what they'll do in hypnotherapy is that there's a few different aspects. Generally, there's something like an induction. So can we induce someone into a state of hypnosis? There's known as something as a deepener, which is when you're in a light trance, what can I say, what can I do to take you to a deeper level into that theta electrical rhythm that I mentioned? So just surfing above being asleep. And then while you're down there, what can I say? Hopefully, how can I be clever enough to use the right metaphor or the right story to help change that limiting belief? So it's very hands-on. I'm going to take you here and I'm going to go and try and change that thing that you've asked me to change. And hopefully you'll resonate with it, or you might not. And what I did is I was working with a client. We were getting some wonderful results. And I thought, why don't I try something different? Why don't I take my hands off the wheel and guide them into that space and just start speaking to that superconscious and say, hey, can you go find, not the limiting belief, not the memory, can you safely find everything? Safely find everything that needs to be changed? Anything better than I would ever know? Anything much more aware than Mike consciously would ever know? And can you treat it in the safest, fastest, most effective way for Mike to be able to do this? And there's something called idiomotor signals that I'll send out, which means that your fingers will literally involuntarily twitch when I'm asking that superconscious questions. So you know it's coming from a very genuine place. People aren't consciously moving their fingers. It's an involuntary act. So you know it's coming from a very different space. And the first person I did it with, I remember it's clear as day. I was traveling at the time. This lady had had issues where she basically had lifetime resentment of her mother. She couldn't really be in the same room with her for long enough. She knew that her mum was a good mum, but there was just so much baggage that she was still holding as a result of things that felt unresolved with her mum. And what was interesting is when I asked that superconscious to go treat it, what she ended up saying was, it's really odd, but what I suddenly saw in my head was my mum when she was a really young girl, and this huge light seemed to just come and envelop her and give her the hug that I think I knew she always needed. Now, I didn't give her the metaphor. I didn't tell her how to go treat that memory. Her mind, something, gave her the metaphor to be able to say, okay, that's what she needed to feel, see and hear in order to suddenly realize, oh, my mum's not a bad person. I don't just know that logically, I know it in my body that she was just someone who needed love. And when she opened her eyes, she said, yeah, there's no feelings of resentment. So automatically I'm thinking, okay, this is, sort of moving on your chair a bit, thinking this is interesting, but you know me, proof's in the pudding.
These next clips came from the episode of Take a Deep Breath featuring the guest, Christine Gersthofer, otherwise known as the Human Mermaid. She is a record-setting Austrian who could hold her breath for up to an astonishing 6 minutes. She is the youngest woman to, on a national level, lead in deep diving. She is an adept freediving instructor and is also an underwater model. She has set her sights on expanding freediving's appeal through workshops focusing on team building and mental resilience using breathwork itself. Christine also has some rather ambitious goals. These include competing in pool events, competing in world championships, and she even aspires to one day compete in the Olympics. In this episode, Mike really wanted to dive into, no pun intended there, Christine's ability to prepare for such ambitious feats, and what breathing exercises she actually uses to achieve these. They also had a little bit of fun. They had a breath hold competition themselves, but I'm certainly sure you can guess who won that one. The link to the full podcast is below, but as a taster, enjoy these clips from the Take a Deep Breath podcast featuring Christine Gersthofer, the Human Mermaid.
So, what sort of breathing exercises do you do on a regular basis?
What breathing exercises? So I like to do this coherence breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I do it not sometimes in the evening before I go to bed. Like I lie in my bed and before sleeping because it's like calms me down. And I also do this happiness. What Tom Seekers told us, the world champion, or one of the world champions of the world record holder.
Yeah.
So going to my happy place and trying to hold my breath for a little bit.
Yeah.
But in essence, I like to do like more, but it's more for the advanced freedivers, like doing, if you're training for a competition, you know these static bikes where you cycle and you hold your breath during cycling.
Yeah.
So it's kind of very exhausting. It's like an interval training. So it's like when you, let's say, training for competition. But it's not what I would do for beginners. But for beginners, I would say there are these like exercises where you just say you hold your breath like for 1 minute, then you breathe for 2 minutes, let's say. Then you hold your breath for 1 minute and 15 seconds, breathe for a minute. So you can extend your breath hold, for example, or do it the other way around. You hold your breath for 1 minute 30, breathe 2 minutes. Then you hold your breath for like 1 minute 30 and breathe 1 minute 50 seconds. So you can just shorten the breathing time or the lengthen the breath hold time. So this was like when I was a beginner, I started with that and just mental relaxation. And what also helps is like this muscle relaxation. So in the water, when I hold my breath for 5 minutes, the first part of my journey, let's say, is like I go through every tissue, every muscle in my body. Is my head relaxed? Are my shoulders relaxed? And if not, I try to just let them go. So it's also nice.
Cool. So the body scan.
Body scan, yes.
And then just like focus.
Yeah.
And then you have a nice positive thought process when it's getting a bit hard.
Yeah.
Keep them in the nose. Okay.
That's it.
And when was that? Can you remember the first time you timed your breath hold? Like, were you maybe like 12 or 15? First time you how long did you hold your breath?
It was like, I was like, 10, 12 years old, and with like 30 seconds, something, 40 seconds, but in the water when I was down there, it was 1 minute something.
Okay.
So it's always been like that. If I'm on the water, it's way easier because you get a little bit distracted. You see the bubbles, you see the sea floor, you see the animals, you're like focused on spinning and the correct technique and everything. So you're so much to do actually. And equalization also. I often forgot this because I'm doing hand-free sometimes, it's not, I kind of like swallow a little bit, I don't know, like I pumps the ears, I don't know.
Yeah. And apparently that's quite rare.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like very special equalization. Very cool. Yeah.
So I forgot something sometimes too. There's something called equalization. I have to do that.
You don't need to do it.
Because it's just acid.
And so to people that don't know what equalization is, can you just explain that?
Yeah, so equalization is you have, if you go down and the pressure increases, it increases mostly on your capacities with air, and it's like in the ears there's these what's called eardrums, and you have to equalize the pressure. That means you're closer to the nose, and then as you would push or breathe out through your nose, you press air into your nose, and then the ear plopped open. So the ear tubes, I guess, or stasios tubes, plop open, and you are doing that. I can't say really how often you do that, like going down to 50 meters or so, but like every 5 meters or every 3 meters, it depends on the person. So, it's also training. Yeah.
This is the thing I'm really struggling with. Pressure's so strong. And
I know.
Nothing's happening, but I'm going to practice again tomorrow. And
that's super fun.
They're practice.
Awesome.
Thank you. So we're about to do a breath hold. You're going to teach us how to do a breath hold from a professional freediver.
Of course.
So, tell me what we need to do. What's the steps?
Okay. Firstly, we don't have any warm-up. We would do like this relaxation, like this coherence breathing and relaxation, heading into a happy place. But the most essential before we hold our breath is like the last inhale. So it's like a full belly breathing, and then the rest goes into the chest, like really expanding your chest until you like feel it here, and then really suck in the last few air with like through the mouth like a straw, like that, and then just close and hold your breath. And afterwards, if we come up out of the breath hold again, it's important to do our recovery. Hug breathing is called. Hug because you inhale sharply, hold for a second or a little bit, and then exhale passively, so the air just flows out naturally. Looks like that. So you do it like 4 or 5 times, and then your body and your blood is then soon oxygenated, and you can soon earlier dive down again.
Just a quick recovery to get oxygen back in. Okay. Okay.
And be exhausted that much then.
Perfect. And if you just show us the preparation for the breath hold.
It's like a full belly breathing, like imagine a balloon blowing up here, and then really straighten, expanding the chest, and then a few last intakes with the straw.
Okay.
I'm gonna demonstrate it. It's like So this would be
That's the recovery piece.
without the recovery
Okay.
again.
So we're using the mouth. We're sucking in air through the straw. Belly's being inflated like a balloon.
Yeah.
And
then
the chest.
Yeah.
And we bring it all the way up here.
Yeah.
And then we hold.
And we hope that's it.
Okay.
So nothing very difficult actually.
Okay. Okay. We're going to try one?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Ready to lose?
Of course, yeah.
No.
And
We were the next world champion.
I don't think so. The ship has sailed. But, maybe I can get more than a minute this time. Still.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Before. Okay, so hand in the belly.
Yep.
One on the chest. It helps to focus. And then we just do the inhale in the belly, then in the chest, and then up to your feet here and just close.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay, then let's start.
Damn it. Congratulations. I was never looking. It's been weird for me.
Good
Oh.
hard breathing.
See?
But
It's
real
so much
time.
harder.
Yeah, and
So much harder.
not in the water is just easier.
Congratulations.
Thank you, but you too. You did your personal best.
Yeah, so in the water I did 3 minutes 14 seconds,
Wow.
which I've never held my breath more than like 2 minutes before.
Yeah.
Ever. And so
Wow.
that was
It
great.
is really like you say the progression is like
Yeah.
not like like
Yeah.
yeah.
So my goal when I got here was I want to do 3 minutes. And then today, since I came out, I was like, I want to do 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Chris Ryan is someone that Mike really looks up to and has even used the word hero to describe him. Chris is the author of 2 incredible books called Sex at Dawn and Civilized to Death. Both Mike and Chris believe that the human race is screwing themselves out of existence. In this episode, they explore how technology has advanced and the impact that has had on our civilization on a societal ground. They also discuss what it's doing to our growth and what the birth and advancement of AI is going to mean for us in the long run. In this first clip, Mike just wants to know what Chris thinks about all of this, but then swiftly moves on to asking for advice on how to raise his 1-year-old son in this modern world without using a screen of any sorts. This was probably one of the most interesting and important podcasts Mike has ever done. So if you enjoyed these clips, you found them interesting and engaging, click on the link below and watch the full conversation. Thank you.
Well, okay, first of all, I'm no expert, so, there are millions of people who know more about this than I do, so that I just need to begin with that. But I for a long time, I have thought that the trajectory of the human species is coming to a fork in the road. And I don't know in the UK if you guys have these Yogi Berra quotes. Do you know who Yogi Berra was? He was a baseball coach, I think. Not Yogi the Bear. Like
That's what I thought you meant, yeah.
Right. No, his name was Yogi Berra. I think he was a baseball coach. And he was famous for saying things, kind of obvious things, but in a memorable way. Like, I think he was talking about a baseball game and he said, "It ain't over till the fat lady sings," an opera reference. That's, now everyone says that and has no idea where it came from. But anyway, one of his quotes was, he said, "When you come to a fork in the road, take it." It's like, it makes no sense, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And I feel like humanity is coming to a fork in the road, and I feel like 2 things are happening, as you say, converging. One is that the technological development is accelerating and is fusing ever more profoundly with human consciousness in ways that I agree with you. I think we are screwing ourselves out of existence as a species because we're merging with technology. And, it's already well underway. It's not something new. Why is, I remember years ago thinking, why is Gmail free? Like, why are everyone's on Gmail, it's free. It's got to be costing them tons of money to run all these servers. Why is it free? Well, clearly it's because there's some value in amassing trillions of emails that their artificial intelligence can absorb and learn from, and not in some nefarious, like, learn our secrets and what porn sites you look at and all that kind of stuff, but how do we think? How do we talk? What comes next when this statement comes? What's the next statement? How is emotion expressed and hidden? And, like, it's studying us and has been for a long time. And so, the powers that be will always point to the beneficial effects of that, right? Like, oh, but, it can develop cures for disease, and you can have your, internet communications and podcasts recorded remotely around the world and blah, blah, blah. Everything's so great. But what's really happening, I think, is that humanity is a larval stage of life. And our destiny is to give birth to another form of life, which is all around us right now, but we still are having trouble recognizing it. And it's superorganisms like corporations and institutions of various types that sort of absorb us and absorb our energy and our intelligence and use it for their own purposes, which are often in opposition to ours, which is why we get fired and screwed out of our retirement. And, we're disposable. We already know we're disposable to institutions. And then I think that's also happening with technology. And so we are getting to a point where we will be either absorbed into the technology or disposed of by the technology when we've served our purpose. So I think that's going up. One fork is going in that direction. And the other fork is that we seem to be on the verge of collapse, at all times. And so it feels like it's this kind of, it's a race between escape velocity on one side, where we become technology and leave behind our biological necessities for clean water and clean air and, a sort of biological context in which we can thrive or even survive. And on the other side, the whole thing just sort of collapses and we regress. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but we return to a much more human way of living, right? Which is what I write about in Civilized to Death, where, we return to a way of living that actually is responsive to our needs as human beings, as Homo sapiens, and is much more in alignment with our nature as animals. Which way it's going to go, I don't know, but I think it could go both ways is what I'm thinking. Like, on one side, we could have, we could sort of split into two existences, one of which goes off to the stars, or Mars or whatever, as a half biological, half technological being, or others get left behind, but left behind in something that is more similar to hunter-gatherer groups that are codependent and or interdependent and return to a more sort of primordial way of life, which could sound apocalyptic to a lot of people. But I think, one of the strains of propaganda that we're all subject to is this idea that when civilization breaks down, things are horrible, and that we should be grateful for civilization and all the trappings and comforts of civilization, which we're all very familiar with. And so if those things go away because of economic collapse or revolution or solar flare from the sun that wipes out electrical substations all over the world or whatever it is, then, we're going to be fucked because we won't have all our comforts and so on. What's interesting is that when collapse happens, often people look at that as the best times of their lives, right? They look back and they say, wow, that's when we took care of each other, right after 9/11 or right after the flood or right after, the invasion or the earthquake or whatever it is. People often look at that period of their lives and say, that's when there was meaning. That's when I felt part of a community. That's when strangers took care of each other. And, similar to what you mentioned in Papua New Guinea, there was love everywhere, right? There was play everywhere. There was also disaster. There was also suffering, but there's suffering right now. We just don't see it. We sweep it under the rug, send it to the old folks' home, send it to the hospital, send it to the, industrial chicken factory, keep it out of sight, right? And what happens when the system breaks down is the suffering is no longer hidden, and we see it and we experience it, but that also stimulates us to take care of one another. I mean, I just wrote about this on my Substack a couple of days ago. There's a fantastic book called A Paradise Built in Hell by Rebecca Solnit, where she looks at disaster sociology and interviews people who spend their lives studying human behavior in disasters. And what they found is that people behave typically the opposite of what we're told they would do. So it's not looting and pillaging and raping and murdering and all that when the structures of authority are gone. What happens is people rise up and take care of one another. And there's a really powerful quote from the founder of the discipline of disaster sociology, paraphrasing him, but he says something like, after spending my life investigating this, I've realized that we have it backwards. The disasters are the times that people remember as being the best times of their lives because it provides a relief from the real disaster, which is daily life.
You reminded me of, is it Sebastian Junger's book, Tribe? Have you come across that book?
Sure, yeah. It's a great book.
Yeah, that was not, I think he talks about 9/11 in there. And I think he says antidepressant prescriptions dropped and suicides dropped in the weeks after 9/11 in New York. And
yeah.
He talks about community and neighbors cooking for each other and all those sort of things. Yeah. And,
right.
And
look at what's going on.
Something's missing.
Right. Look at those very things, anxiety, depression, suicide. Those are all going up rapidly in teenagers starting around 2012, which is the introduction of the smartphone, right? So what does the smartphone do? It puts you alone in your room rather than out with friends, right? Out in the world. No, it puts you in a virtual world where your interactions are all mitigated by technology, by capitalism, by devices that are designed to just suck your attention, right? Suck it right out of your life. What do we have? That's all we have. That's what life is made of, attention, right? It's hours of attention. That's what our lives are. And these parasites are designed to, just extract that attention away from us in ways that are ever more efficient and inescapable. And so our spirits and our bodies rebel, right? Even if they can convince our brains that it's good, our bodies know better. Just like, advertising convinces people that cheese puffs are good food, but your body's like, no, your body doesn't buy it. Your body rebels, right? So I think that's what's happening. I think there's this divergence between what, the superorganism, the matrix, whatever you want to call it, convinces us is good for us, our Instagram accounts and our TikTok viewing and our blah, blah, blah. And yet the spirit is rebelling, and people are killing themselves or finding life intolerable because that's not what life is supposed to be like.
Yeah. So as we spoke before, hit record, I'm now a father of a 1-year-old. So that whole first year has just been mental in a good way and a crazy way. And it's by the way, on this quick side note, it's interesting how the brain changes. And I was just saying this to somebody yesterday, actually, is like when he was born, it's like, oh, I'm no longer the main character in the story. It's now him. It was a really interesting shift. And now everything in me is like, don't die, not because I don't want to die. It's like, don't die because of him. Everything kind of shifted, which is wonderful. All this stuff kicked in. But we've decided to go like screen free with him. And that sounds like quite easy. It's really fucking hard to do. So we've initially it was like, oh, we can watch TV because he can't turn his head. So we would like watch a bit of TV at night and he was asleep in his arms. And eventually he was like turning the TV. So the TV then has to go off. And then later on he noticed we were on our phones and he would like just stop and stare at you. So then the phone's gone away. So there was like this withdrawal symptom we had. It's like, what the hell are we going to do with our evenings and weekends? And then it's like, oh, you play with your kid and you are you're in the real world. And again, it sounds so obvious now, but I think having my head in that phone for the last, 15, 20 years, it's taken a year for it to start to pull out. And now the evening there's no TV. We're downstairs playing with his little trucks and his toys and, messing about. And before you know it, 3 hours have gone by. But I can't understand what that was like before because I've seen those stats. I've seen the suicide stats for the teenagers and stuff. It's fucking terrifying. So we're trying to do this, not ancestral living, because that's quite an extreme version, but we're trying to get as close to nature as we can. So daylight, movement, breath work, whole foods, getting him chewing, all these different things. It's a trip, man. It's a proper trip. Where do you think we can go with this? Where how extreme? Because in America, you guys seem to have communes and you have places where you get together loads of land. England, I don't think is quite like that unless you're quite wealthy, because like our land is like super expensive, and I'm sure there are some communes out there, but at the same time, it's like leaving your creature comfort seems quite hard. So what do you see from a local American point of view, and what do you think globally we can do if we're trying to, I hate this term, escape the matrix. It just makes me blah inside, but that seems to be the common term people keep using. How do you escape the matrix now in this 2023 world?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think we'll ever escape it. And I think having a kid is a real challenge because you're going to be met with this conundrum of wanting your kid to be as healthy and, sort of free of all that toxic consciousness as possible. And yet, on the other hand, you're raising a kid to live in the world that exists, right? Not some fictional world that you wish existed. So you're always going to have that thing where he comes home from school and says, come on, Dad, everybody else has, the chip embedded in their forehead. How am I supposed to communicate with them if I don't have a chip embedded in my forehead? Dad, come on. So I don't know. That's one of the reasons I don't have kids is I never could really figure out, how to square that circle. But I do think that the only way to really get any relief from the dominant narrative is with other people. You can't, I mean, I guess you could go off and, you know, be a Unabomber kind of figure in the middle of nowhere and just, you know, live off rabbits or whatever. But I think that by far the best way to do it is with other people and forming some community. And I mean, land is an issue, but I do know land in Spain is cheaper than in the U.S. And certainly buildings are. And a lot of Europe, I don't know about the UK, but a lot of Europe, the villages have emptied out. And so you can buy a whole village for 100,000 euros or something, and, you know, just get all your friends, get a few friends together and go and rehabilitate the village. I had this plan years ago when I was living in Barcelona. I wanted to raise some money and buy a village up in the Pyrenees and, you know, set up like a satellite high-speed internet connection and, you know, renovate a couple of houses that I would live in and my friends would live in. And then, you know, as we sort of got the place going again, other people could come in and, you know, we'd sort of choose like, okay, we need a doctor and a carpenter and, you know, certain kind of figures that we need in the community and sort of rebuild a community in this medieval village. You know, like most of my ideas, it never really amounted to anything, but I still think it's a great idea. And I think it's viable. If I were in my 20s, that's probably what I'd be looking at this point, because Europe is full of opportunities like that. You know, beautiful old villages with incredible views and, you know, spring water. And just like, I was looking at places in southern Spain. I was there about a year ago. And like, it's amazing what you can buy for $100,000 to $200,000. And, you know, that's not a lot of money when you got 5-6 couples together or something pooling money. So I do think the opportunities exist. And I think the best way to do it is with other people. I think, you know, like with many things, we need to learn from the people who went before us. And one of the things we need to learn is that, you know, you need to sort of establish boundaries and be really clear about how decisions are going to be made and anticipate, you know, problems and changes and things. And it's not just the whole, like, you know, free love, back to the land, 1968 again. You know, we need to learn from the failures of those days. Just like we are with, you know, psychedelics and, you know, and other, you know, like there's a big difference between the dialogue around ethical non-monogamy, for example, that's now, you know, compared to the whole kind of, you know, love the one you're with, free love, 1969, you know, if it feels good, do it mentality, right? Like there's definitely a more like, okay, wait a minute, you know, that brought us all sorts of problems that we don't need to deal with again. So let's, you know, the pendulum, every time the pendulum swings, it feels like we need to remember what we learned on the last swing, you know, on this swing. Let's, like, yeah, psychedelics can be very useful. They can be very healing, but they can also be oversold. They can be destructive. They can trigger psychosis. You know, there are all sorts of downsides that were denied the first time. And this time that we need to sort of incorporate into our understanding.
These next clips are from Mike's interview with Alex Tusuk, the founder of Breathing Cold in Bali. He has an online course called Breath Mastery, A Journey to Wellness. This is an epic 11-week transformative exploration into the incredible power of your breath. Here, you will learn holistic breath awareness, his own practical techniques, and how to use these for personal growth. In this podcast, they discuss the impact of mouth and nose breathing, creating safe spaces for self-expression, and the potential for breathwork in addressing trauma, along with promoting inner peace. These are just a couple of clips from that podcast, but it was a great conversation. Really, really engaging. So if you like these clips, you found them interesting, please check out the full episode in the link below. Thank you.
Okay, I really want to kick off with a bang here. So talk to me about, you talk about the benefits of mouth breathing, which is very controversial today in the breath world. So what's going on there?
Yes, you're right. You know, there's so much out there on the benefits of nose breathing from a performance perspective, from a emotional control perspective. You know, when you want to control emotion, you just seal your lips and just connect to nose breathing. But how do you express emotions? How do you laugh? You cannot laugh with the mouth closed. You cannot have an orgasm with your mouth closed. You cannot cry with your mouth closed. And very often in a breath session, all I need to do when someone is holding on their tears is just press on their bottom jaw and let their mouth open, and they get flooded with emotions. So much in what I see out there is about controlling, suppressing, and I think we need to reestablish the benefits of conscious mouth breathing. So for me, conscious mouth breathing means whenever you are connected to your emotions, let's say you're dancing, and I would highly recommend to everyone to have some kind of a dance practice, because it's a feminine, creative, you don't know where you're going. And so much in our world is about objective and goals and targets and routine and doing the right thing, that I feel one of the main disease in our world is control, over control. Women's are getting into their masculine side and they want to control themselves and control everyone. And we are here fearful of each other. And I really believe that mouth breathing invites something I call getting out of your own way. Just get out of your own way. Just shut down the mind, shut down the control. Just allow yourself to be. As you know, breathing cold, I also facilitate ice baths. This is how I recommend to enter an ice bath. If you look online on ice bath videos, it's all about control. It's about the guys getting the ice and right away taking control of what's going on. I say stop that. There is plenty of space for you to be in control. When you get into the ice bath, allow yourself for one breath to be overwhelmed. Allow yourself to let those emotions come. And people are usually shocked when I demonstrate an ice bath because they have their idea of what is an expert in ice bath, someone who really can control himself. And so I get into an ice bath and I scream and I cry or I laugh. I don't know what's going to happen, but I allow those emotions to come out. And very often they misinterpret it as, oh, well, you're such a breath expert. You're such a nice expert. Look at you. They almost think that I'm a fraud because I'm not in control. And I think there is a space now where we need to welcome people just being themselves and letting go of the mask, letting go of the constant control. Being in Bali, I work a lot with yogis and meditation gurus and experts. And I can tell you, man, I told you I had the luck to having more than 6,000 people. How many emotionally suppressed beings come to my workshops? It's crazy. And almost the more spiritual, the more mindful they are, the less connected they are to their emotional bodies.
You mentioned the shadow self. I don't really know much about that. Could you just explain that for the viewers? What when people say shadow self, what's the theory behind that?
Shadow is all the part that we don't want to bring to the surface, the things that we just want to keep a little bit hidden. The behaviors that we're a bit ashamed of. Maybe you're stingy, maybe you are greedy, maybe you are horny and you look at girls and you're with your wife and your baby, but really you have dirty thoughts about all those things that are there, but you just let's not go there. Let's not express them. That's it. So it's really having an approach where you welcome everything. When you're not selective on what's coming, you just say, oh, interesting. That's there. And try to have compassion for it. You're going through a hard time in your relationship and you're thinking of going in another relationship. So, why are you using sex or woman to feel better, and what's your relation there? So it's the ability to go and dive into these things. Or maybe, going the shadow work would be around people who have abused you, and you just don't want to think about them, you just think, okay, it happened. I don't want to go there. The problem is it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You know, it's like really, it's the image of the ball that you put in the swimming pool. How long can you keep the ball underwater? It doesn't work. At one point, it needs to explode, and that's called murder. That's called rape. That's called, you know, behavior, rage, road rage, and abuse of all kinds. And we've seen that all the time. They're just people, they wait, and, you know, they explode. So if we stop doing that and we really allow ourselves to be just human, and there's not really a narrative around that in our society, and there's not really a narrative around that on podcasts, and it's really about how to be good, you know, and how to be better and how to improve, and not so much about accepting and surrendering and being not trying to change. It's all about personal development. I'm very much against the idea of bettering yourself. There's nothing to improve. You know as well as me that if you're looking for the best breath master of all time, you just need to take a newborn baby. There is not a single breath worker, no matter how famous or rich they are, that can match the quality of a breath of a baby. Yeah. So for me, it's really a process of accepting and unlearning rather than adding more stuff to it, you know. It's a path of liberation.
You talked earlier about other locations of trauma, and you mentioned the jaw. Where else are people? I mean, you could probably say everywhere, but where are the main areas that we hold on to too much energy?
You know, it's crazy, but it's all common sense. So, you know, you would have seen something that you should not have seen because you were too young or it was not appropriate. So it will be in your eyes. And then you have EMDR, which is about, you know, moving fingers and getting actually traumas being and maybe sometimes people, they need to wear glasses very young. And is it just in our culture we just say, oh, it's bad luck, it's hereditary, it's just because it's the genes. I would question that. You know what it may be, but maybe it's not the full answer. Maybe you couldn't express yourself and you were not allowed to express yourself. So of course the breath of life, maybe I don't know if you heard of the breath of life, but the breath of life is the spinal fluid that is protecting our brain, and basically that spinal fluid that is there so that we, you know, if I do this, I don't have concussion because my brain is like moving in some kind of a fluid that is there and all the time, and it's being produced all the time. It's moving and circulating in the body. So when we are touching the brain, when we are doing craniofacial and some release in different parts of the brain, all of a sudden emotions get released because a lot is there because the energy needs to move, and usually it moves up or it moves down, and a lot gets stuck up there. So a lot of release happens actually in the neck. You know, as you know, the accessory respiratory muscles, people have bad postures. They use in chronic stress, they use the upper part of the body to breathe rather than their main respiratory muscles. So a lot is there. Of course, we mentioned the two usual suspects, diaphragm and psoas. And, you know, people who are like this, they are protecting their heart, you know, so it's a heartbreak, you know. So we are focusing on the symptoms and telling you how to behave. But I promise you, I really have seen it with so many people. Once you access the root cause, the symptom disappears. So I can teach you how to have better posture, or I can help you release that original emotional heartbreak, and then all of a sudden the symptom disappears over and over, whether it's knee pain, whatever it is. Basically, I say breathwork is a listening opportunity. It's not about anything else but listening to the body. And if you learn to listen to the body, now all of a sudden you can love your body. And when I say love the body, is love the manifestation of the body. Oh, I hurt my toe. Can I have some kind of appreciation for that? Maybe there is something that is happening that I should pay attention to, rather than saying, oh my God, I wish my knee was working better. I'm frustrated with my body and I don't like the way I look at da. And we all have this this relation with our bodies, we're so disconnected. You know, if you want to know about me, ask my doctor, because I have no idea. And we are just surrendering our sovereignty to people who are supposed to know, because they know disease, they should know us. And we are completely disempowered. And I mean, we could talk about diet and all that. It's crazy. So really, through breath work, you get an opportunity to listen to your body, to finally stop going to theta brainwaves, slow down the brainwaves, and access what's really going on, create that space, you know? And when you do that, all of a sudden, interesting, this is happening. And it becomes really exciting. Those sessions are really, really exciting, because it's really self-inquiry every time. And you can do this every morning. It's amazing. So you can go on, you know, the pelvic floor, about belonging. I mean, it's really, every part of the body is telling a story. You know, if you go to Chinese medicine, there is a lot about the signification of the organs and the emotions associated with it. You know, it's a rabbit hole we can enter for a few podcasts on the signification, emotional bridge between what's happening physically and emotionally.
Okay, there you have it. These were just some of the highlights of the last few episodes of the Take a Deep Breath podcast. I really hope you enjoyed this edition. If you did, please hit that subscribe button and just give us a thumbs up or a like. It really is totally free, and it really helps this channel more than you will ever know. It allows us to grow and bring on more high-profile and knowledgeable, interesting guests. Now, these podcasts really are here to spread awareness about the importance of breath work and the impact it can have on your health and daily lives. If you want to explore more in this field, you want access to Mike's knowledge, experience, and even just to connect with other like-minded breathwork enthusiasts, then why not come and join our community, Take a Deeper Breath? You can join for as long or as little as you like. It's a 30-day rolling membership. There's no contract. There's no minimum term. So if you join and you are not happy, then we also have a 7-day money-back guarantee. There is a plethora of content straight away as soon as you join, including one of Mike's expensive courses. And he also goes live nearly every day to talk about the importance of breath, to share some breathing exercises. He does Q&As. Every month there is a different, unique theme. So every month is educational. You're going to learn something new. There's more and more people joining, whether they are aspiring breathwork instructors or beginners. There is something for everyone. Come and join us. We're going to do a breathing exercise right now, but afterwards, click on the link below. 7-day money-back guarantee. Why not come and try it? Until then, enjoy the breathing exercise. We'll see you next week for the next episode, and then hopefully we'll see you in the community afterwards. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you soon. Till next time.
Welcome to Breath Blends, the place where we combine different breathing techniques together to give you maximum efficiency and potency on your breathing practice. Today's breath blend combines 3 of our favourite breathing techniques together. The wonderful coherence breathing, which is so good for improving heart rate variability and reducing stress. We're going to then apply the humming breath on the exhale, which is a wonderful way to boost nasal nitric oxide, which cleans the air, helps open up the airways. It's a vasodilator. And then on the inhale, we're going to use the ujjayi breath. The ujjayi breath, the ocean sounding breath. This is created through a little bit of throat constriction, and my tip here is just simply pretend you're fogging up the mirror. So we're fogging the mirror. We do that with our mouth closed, and we do that on an inhale and humming on the exhale. Don't worry if you don't get this straight away. Breathe however you want to breathe. These are just our breath blend prompts. Have fun playing with these breathing techniques and expect to see many more breath blends come in the near future. If you'd like to know more, head down below. And for now, let's get stuck into the exercise.
and bring on more high-profile and knowledgeable, interesting guests. Now, these podcasts really are here to spread awareness about the importance of breathwork and the impact it can have on your health and daily lives. If you want to explore more in this field, you want access to Mike's knowledge, experience, and even just to connect with other like-minded breathwork enthusiasts, then why not come and join our community, Take a Deeper Breath. You can join for as long or as little as you like. It's a 30-day rolling membership. There's no contract. There's no minimum term. So if you join and you are not happy, then we also have a 7-day money-back guarantee. There is a plethora of content straight away as soon as you join, including one of Mike's expensive courses. And he also goes live nearly every day to talk about the importance of breath, to share some breathing exercises. He does Q&As. Every month there is a different, unique theme. So every month is educational. You're going to learn something new. There's more and more people joining, whether they are aspiring breathwork instructors or beginners. There is something for everyone. Come and join us. We're going to do a breathing exercise right now, but afterwards, click on the link below. 7-day money-back guarantee. Why not come and try it? Until then, enjoy the breathing exercise. We'll see you next week for the next episode, and then hopefully we'll see you in the community afterwards. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you soon. Till next time.
Welcome to Breath Blends, the place where we combine different breathing techniques together to give you maximum efficiency and potency on your breathing practice. Today's breath blend combines 3 of our favourite breathing techniques together. The wonderful coherence breathing, which is so good for improving heart rate variability and reducing stress. We're going to then apply the humming breath on the exhale, which is a wonderful